Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this Design Space tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this 5-layer letter A monogram using Design Space. These layered letters are so popular at the moment. I've seen hundreds of people post their beautiful artwork that they've made using designs that they've either found online or that they've bought on Etsy or other SVG marketplaces. But I've also seen quite a few people ask how to make their own in Design Space. It has taken a while to work out how to do it because Design Space is not always the most intuitive bits of software, but finally I cracked it. So I've recorded this video to show you how to design letters just like the one on the screen in Design Space. So it is mostly done entirely in Design Space. There's only one bit at the start which isn't, and that is the top layer. If I just hide these other ones, that's this one, so just the outline of the letter, and that's because Design Space doesn't let you do outlined things directly in it. So we're going to use a website to make this. Don't worry, it's completely free. You don't have to install any program or anything to your computer. It's just a website. But that is how we're actually going to start this project. So to get started on your very own designed 3D letter, head on over to www.photop.com and let's get started. So this is what Photop looks like. It can be a bit slow to load, especially if you're on a slow internet connection, so bear with it. It'll get there. This is basically a free online version of Photoshop, and we're going to use this to create the outline of our letter because you can't do that directly in Design Space. So the first thing you need to click on is New Project in this big box that appears in the middle of the screen. You'll get this pop-up, and right in the top left it says Width and Height. Change the drop down that says PX to IN, which stands for inches, and then type in the width and height box the number 8. So we're going to do 8 by 8 inches. Don't worry too much about the size of this because when we put it into Design Space later we can change it. But for now I'm doing a nice big image. Where it says DPI, change that to 300 and then your background should be white. Once you've got those settings, click on the Create Rectangle and that will make your square for you. Go down to the Text tool, which is the letter T in the menu down on the left, and then click on it. It takes a while to load again, but once it has, you can click onto your square and it will start a little font for you. So type the letter that you want to put in. I'm going to do an A, and you'll notice it appears really, really small. So you need to select that letter by pressing Ctrl and A on your keyboard. I'm not sure you can see, but that got a little black outline around it when I did that. And then in the top, change the size to, let's go for 2000. Oh, and that's still really small. Oh, because I put 200, 2000. There we go. Your letter will probably go off the screen like mine's done, but we can change that and move it about by using the Move tool, which is the top one in this list down on the left. If you single click that one, then you can click and drag on your letter to move it. So if it's still appearing a bit small, you can also grab one of the edges to change the size. Now, just like in Design Space, you can see just by dragging the corners, this is all going out of proportion, just like if you've unlocked your little padlock in Design Space. We want to make sure it does stay in proportion if we're clicking and dragging. So to do that, hit the Shift key on your keyboard as you're moving your mouse out. So I've got my Shift pressed down now, and it's a bit slow and laggy on my internet, but you can see with Shift down it's now changing size in proportion. So don't make it so big it fills the whole square because otherwise your outline won't fit in. But when you're happy with the size, press Enter on your keyboard and it will save it for you. Now we want to change the font to one that we're going to use to cut out. So to do that, click the text tool again and then click and drag over the letter to highlight it. In the top, there's a drop down to change the font. So you can click in there and it's got different fonts in there. If you want to load one on your computer, you can click the load font button, but there are quite a lot in here to choose from. You want to choose a font that's quite thick and stay away from script fonts because they'll just cut too thin, and also they won't give us enough space to add all of the graphics and images and shapes inside of the letter. So I'm just going to look down until I find one I like. Maybe that one. Oh no, I don't really like that. That's a bit thin. See, this one, if you look on the left line and across the middle of the A, that's really thin, so it's not going to be very good to cut out. What was that one? Esteban. Okay, I like that one. I'm going to go with that one. So the font I've chosen is Esteban. When you're happy with your font, the next thing we need to do is to add our outline to the letter. So remember, that's the whole reason that we're using Photopea. To do that, just click on the Move tool, and that'll just escape from the Text tool so that we can do this next step. On the right-hand side, you've got layers, kind of like you do in Design Space. But because this is a Photoshop clone, it means we can do fancy things with these layers that we can't do in Design Space. Move your mouse to the right hand side of the layer that has the T on it, so T stands for text, and then double click. That's going to pop up this box of layer style. I'm just going to drag this over so you can see how it changes the A. On the main screen you've got these two sliders, one's called opacity and one's called fill. On the one that says fill, drag it all the way down to 0. So you can see my A's now disappeared because I've taken away the fill of that letter. Down the left you've got all these different options, and one of them is called stroke. Click on that and you can see it's added a red line to the outside of my letter. I want to change this to black, so click the red box, and then there should be a black option in the row of colours, but if not, you can just click it in the gradient box that appears. Click OK once you've selected black, and now you can drag the size slider to make your outline bigger. So it needs to be thick enough that your Cricut will be able to effectively cut this line. Make sure the position is set to outside, because if it's not, if I just change it to inside to show you, that puts the borders inside of the white part of the letter, which isn't what we want because that'll be too skinny to add any nice graphics. So make sure it's outside and that you drag it enough that it's going to be thick enough to cut. So I'm going to go for maybe 55. If you type into the box, it can again take a little while to load, but if you click OK, it'll whir away in the background until it's done. Okay, so now we're ready to save this so that we can import it into Design Space. Click on File on the top menu, go down to Export As, and then click PNG. You'll notice it does say SVG in here, which is normally what we'd want when we're saving a file to load as a cut file in Cricut. But I tried that and it actually doesn't work. It doesn't let you open it in Design Space. So do not press SVG. You want to press PNG. So click that. And then in the box, you don't need to worry about anything in there. Oh, actually, I've missed a step. Hang on, let me just close that. Before you save it, in your layers panel, where you've got the background layer, click on the little eye next to that and hide it to hide the white, and it'll just make it easier when we're loading it into Design Space. Alright, so now we're going to save it. So File, Export As, PNG, and then just click Save. and you can see down the bottom of the screen that has now saved that to my downloads folder. Yours will go wherever internet files normally get saved when you download them. And now we're done with Photopea. That's all we needed it for, just to make that outline. And I'm going to open up Design Space. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to click New Project in the top left to create a blank canvas for us to work on. Click Upload. And now we need to upload our letter into Design Space, and then we're going to have to convert it into a cut file because it's a PNG at the moment. Click Upload Image, and then you can drag and drop or use the browse button to find it on your computer. So I'm just going to drag and drop from my other monitor. There we go. So once you've got that in there, you can see you get this screen, and we need it to be simple because it's only one color. So click on Simple and then Continue, and then continue again. That's fine. We need to save it as a cut image, so click on that one, and then you can give it a name. So let's go letter A, and then click Save. Alright, so now your letter is in your recently uploaded images down the bottom, so you can just click on it to get this green border around the edge, and then Insert Images. And once that's put your image in, you can see, there we go, there we have it in Design Space. So when I'm making layered letters, I like my top layer to just be the outline of the letter, because I do that in a different colour, so I do it in white normally, and it stands out really well against the rest of the letters. So my first letter is going to be this A, just as it is. Now you'll notice over here on the right hand side, you might have a little triangle in your layers, and that's just saying that it's a really big image. It's bigger than our mat, and you can see it's 12 inches wide. So I'm just going to make it a bit smaller by clicking and dragging to get rid of that message. Alright, so we're ready to start building up our layers, and this is a bit of a long process, so bear with me, as this video will probably get a little bit long, but I really hope it makes sense. So in your layers palette, we've got our outline, which is going to be our first layer, and we need to duplicate this. So right click on the layer and then duplicate. I want this to, as we're building up our layers, we're going to do them one on top of the other. So we need to make sure they line up. So select both your layers. Either you can click and drag a box around them, or you can click one in your layers and then press Ctrl and click the other one. Go to Align along the top and then Center, and that's going to put them one on top of the other. I'm just going to hide my one of those A's, which will be our top layer, just so we don't need it to show up right now. We just need to make sure it's saved there so we can turn it on later. But this bottom one is what we're going to be working on, and we're going to add some images. If you've got any SVGs that you want to put as part of your letter, you can use the upload button, but for this video I'm going to use the images from Cricut Access. So click Images. If you don't pay for access, then click on Filter and tick the box next to where it says Free, and then all the images you see will just be the free ones, but I do have it, so I'll just untick that. If you search for leaves, if you're making kind of a floral letter, there are loads in here that look good. So what we're looking for in these images are ones that only have one or two colours and are quite simple. We want them to be simple because we're going to layer them and they will be quite small when we cut them, so we don't want anything too complicated. So go through and choose a few different ones. So I like this one, and if they've got little bits cut out, so this one you can see the green leaves have got the white bits in them, that'll be really good for what we're doing, because we can do the top layer with the white cutouts, and then the layer underneath will fill those in, so you'll be able to see the colour underneath, and that'll look really pretty. So I've got that one. I'm going to go for this one. I quite like these. So just choose a few. We might not end up using them all, but it's nice to have them on our canvas as we're going so that we can have a play and see what it is that we are going to want to use. So choose maybe 6 or 7 and then click Insert Images. They're all going to load for me. There we go. And now you can have a play about with moving them where you want them to go. So I'm just going to move these out the way so I can see them all. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to make it bigger. And I want to put this on this side, so I'm going to flip it. So in the top row it says flip and flip horizontal. So that's a handy thing to know if you're going to be playing about with the position of things. It's easiest when you're doing this if you make all the pictures black as you go, because it makes it easier to see where it's going to cut as you're building the layer. So we're on layer 2 at the moment, because remember layer 1 was just the outline of the letter. So you want to move things about so that they fit where you want them to, but also so that everything is joined in a suitable amount of places that it's not going to break when you cut it. So if I'd maybe done that and left it there, that's not ideal because it's only joined on this little bit where the A meets the leaf. And that's going to be really fragile and not work very well when we layer it. So instead, I'm just going to move it in a bit and keep it there. On the other side, I'm going to go for this one. Make it bigger again. I'm going to make it black to show how the layer is. And actually, I quite like it there, so I'm going to keep it there. I think that's all for this layer. So you don't want to add too much too soon, because otherwise, if you fill the A or the letter completely on this top second layer, you're going to find it difficult to add new things as it goes down. So when you see the final 3D A, it won't really look as good as it maybe could do. So keep it simple for now. And as you make more of them and get more confident, you can start being a little bit more adventurous. But for now, this one is looking good. But I am going to add some little circles and slice them out of this bit on the left. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to show a different colour underneath. So go to Shapes and Circle. To make this easier, I'm going to zoom in using the button on the bottom of the screen. I'm going to just make these white to make it really easy to see. And then just place some circles in here. And when we move on to layer 3 that was the wrong one. When we move on to layer 3 in a minute, you'll see exactly why I'm doing this. So this might take a little bit of time. I'm just duplicating this circle and I'm going to add it to each of the endpoints of this leaf thing. Oops. And you might find you accidentally select the wrong image like I just did. If you do, just hit Ctrl and Z on your keyboard to undo, or you've got the undo button up here. I'm not quite sure why that's not actually undoing. Okay. Right, where is that circle? At the top. Okay, so I want to cut these circles out of this leaf thing. So to do that, I'm going to select all the layers in my layers panel by hitting Control down on my keyboard and then clicking all of the circles. I'm going to weld them together, and that's put them all onto one layer. And then I'm going to have this selected. I'm going to press Control again and select the leaf, and then click Slice. That's going to wear away. And then if I hide these new cut layers, you can see it's cut these circles out of the leaf. So Now that's good because it means when my Cricut goes, it'll cut them out and you'll be able to see what's underneath. So the reason I like to slice it is because when I'm building up the layers in Design Space and making them all different colours so I can test what I'm doing, I want to be able to see that colour underneath. And if I just left them as white circles, I wouldn't be able to do that. And again, that will make more sense in a minute when we move on to layer 3. So this is layer 2, done. I'm going to group all the parts of layer 2 to make this easier. So that's this A at the bottom, the leaves on the right, and then the leaves on the left. Click group. And now I've got them all grouped together. I'm going to test how this is looking by turning on my top letter A. I need to drag this all the way to the top of the layers so it appears above the second layer. And I'm going to start changing the colours to see how this is looking. Okay, so my top layer is the one now in green and the second layer is the one still in black. So you can see already how these layers are going to build up and look really pretty as we're going along. So, time for layer 3. Select your layer 2, right click and then duplicate. You want to move it so it sits exactly on top of your other ones. Don't use the align at this point because you might knock off the alignment of the first layer. So then I'm going to move this underneath the other layer 2. And then my layer 2, I'm actually just going to change the colour of these now. So everything in there, I'm going to change to orange. Okay, cool. Right. Hide your layer 1 and layer 2 by clicking on the eyes and then open up the group for layer 3. So on this layer, I want to fill in the gaps in these leaves so that they'll show through this new layer 3 colour. To do that, click on each of them individually and then click contour down the bottom right. This can take a little while to load, but you can click on bits in the image to hide them, so you can just about see how this is working on the left. Or if you want to hide everything, click hide all contours, just as a quick way. So that's filled in all those circles. If I just turn my layer 2 on, you can see how that's going to work. So my orange layer will have the circles and then my black layer won't. So you'll be able to see them through when you layer up the bits of card. I'm going to do the same for the other ones, so hide all contours, and then you can see how that'll look. Okay, so I'm going to add some more leaves on this layer, so start adding some detail. I'm going to draw these ones in. Oops, you might find that it switches you to the wrong layer when you click. If that happens, the one you actually want to move, in the layers panel, click and drag it above the one that Design Space keeps trying to move, and then it will let you move the one you actually want. You've got a rotate button, so you can move the rotation of things if they're not quite looking how you want them to. And again, I'm just going to make this black to see how it's looking. These leaves are all one layer, so I could separate them with the slice tool, but I can't be bothered. So let's try some different ones instead. I'll use this one. Again, this one's nice because it's got those cut out bits at the top. Ooh. Move that up there. Going to make this black. There we go. Okay, so as you're doing this, you can keep seeing how it's going to look in your layers by turning on the other layers you've done by clicking the little eye next to the group that they're in. And this is looking good. I think I'm happy with this for my third layer. I might just actually add one more little bit. I'm going to look and try and find just one little leaf on its own. Maybe this one. Possibly them. Alright, let's just try this. I just want something to go in the middle bit of the A because it's looking a little bit empty at the minute compared to everything else. When you're adding all your images, make sure you don't make anything too thin that your Cricut machine isn't going to be able to cut it. So this is probably pushing it a bit. It's quite skinny, but hopefully it'll be alright. Okay, so that's filled in a bit more. You'll notice with the leaves here, I've got this tiny little gap. And I think my Cricut machine is actually going to struggle to cut out that gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld all parts of this layer because I'm happy with how it's looking. So I'm going to weld it together because you're going to have to do that on all your layers anyway before we cut them. I was going to do it at the end, but I think I have to do it now. So select everything on your layer and group it just like we did before. Have I got everything? Not quite. Group. And I'm just going to hide these leaves that I'm not using by clicking on the little eyes in the layers. There we go. Alright, so I've got my all my layers here. And I need to weld them. So that's going to turn them from being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate layers into one. So to do that, select the group and then click on weld. And that's going to join them all together so you can see they're now all as one. And whilst I'm doing it, I'm going to hide that one, turn on my second layer, and I'm just going to hit weld on that one as well. Now, one thing to note is when you weld something, you cannot unweld it. So you might want to, before you do it, just duplicate the group and hide that duplicated one just in case you want to go back and change things later. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to. So now it's welded. If I just undo that, you can see how the leaves are on this part of the A. When I welded it, I'll do it again. If I zoom in, it's got this tiny little cutout in the leaves and your Cricut will not be able to cut that and it's not going to add anything. So if that happens and you get any teeny tiny pieces, click contour and wait for it to load and then just click on that teeny tiny bit and it will go a light colour and now you can see it's disappeared so it's not going to be cut. Alright, so I'll hide that one and just going to move these back in order. Let's check they're still all looking right. There we go. Okay, so what I was talking about on this one is the same thing. I've got this little gap between the leaves at the top. Now I've welded it, I can click contour and then click into that little bit and now it's gone. Alright, so we are 3 layers down. Woohoo! So layer 4 to go. I'm just going to duplicate this one. And actually, now we've started welding things, it is going to be easier and quicker to do the rest of them. So this layer 3, I'm going to make a purple colour and hide all of these and move on to layer 4. So now we've got it welded, I want to fill in these gaps in the leaves and all I need to do is click contour once and then zoom in and just click into the gaps that I want to hide. I'm going to hide that as well, maybe. It is quite small. Yeah. And is that it? Yeah. Oh no, I've missed one. If you do miss one, so you can see I've got this leaf down the bottom, just click into contour again. And there we go. Okay, so how is this looking? That's looking nice. So this is layer 4. I think what I'm going to do at this point is add a pattern to the letter. This can get a bit tricky, so bear with me when I'm doing this. The first thing to do is to find a pattern you want to add. So a good thing to search for is grid. So find one you like. I'm going to go for maybe this one actually. Okay, so you want to click and drag it to make it bigger so that it fits over your whole letter. Like this. And then you want to find your top layer, so the letter that's just an outline, right click and duplicate. Click and drag it so it sits on top of the other one, so it lines up with everything we've done. You might want to zoom in to make that a little bit easier. Okay. So hide your original top layer because we don't want to accidentally do anything with this one. And then I'm going to change this to a colour I haven't used just to make it easier to see. And I want to hit contour and fill in the letter like that. That's not quite what I wanted. There we go. So now that's the whole layer filled in. Click the layer of your letter and hold down Ctrl and click on the grid, and then click slice. So if you hide these new slice results, you can see one of them is that grid cut out of your letter shape, and we don't need the other ones, so that one is the only one we need. So I'm going to delete all the others and then drag this layer down to my fourth one. I'm going to make it black to match, and it's actually a bit out of line, so if I zoom in, just going to line it up better. There we go. Okay, so on this layer, this is how it's going to cut. So we've got this pattern which will come through. Turning on these other layers, you can see how that's going to look. And adding patterns like this is a real way of adding intricacy to your cut design. So rather than just filling this whole background with one colour, we are going to do it in stages with this pattern, and it's going to look really pretty. So hide these again. I've still got the spacing a little bit wrong because that's showing out of the bottom. So I'm just going to play about with it. Okay, that'll do. That's really close. What I might do, just to, because you see it's a bit messy at the bottom, we've got these little feet coming out. I'm just going to hide the weld result and just cheat a little bit and create a square. Unlock the proportions and make it wider, and then I'm just going to slice the very bottom bit, just a teeny bit, off of this pattern. Okay, so I've taken the bottom off, and now that should line up. It does. Awesome. Right, I want to weld these two layers together, so select them both and weld. Here we go. And just like we had before, now we've welded it, we've got a couple of teeny tiny little things we need to get rid of. So drag that down to where it's supposed to go. It really annoys me that when you slide or slice or weld or anything in Design Space, it moves that layer to the top. It's just really annoying. No other design program I use changes the layer order. But there we go. That's my bugbear of the day. So I'm going to go through and contour out all of these teeny tiny bits that your Cricut isn't going to be able to cut. It can go quite small, your Cricut, it's very clever, but these tiny weeny bits are only like 1 millimeter big and it's just not going to be able to do it. Okay. Right, there we go. Let's make this colour. Oh, it's filled in the middle. When did it do that? You can see the middle of my A's filled in. That's not ideal. Did I just contour that? Oh, it's when I did... Oh, that's really annoying. Okay, I'm just going to undo my weld by clicking the undo buttons and see if that was what did that. It was. Oh, okay. So this is quite a known bug with Design Space. When you try and weld stuff, if it's too small, Cricut just fills the whole thing in. It happens a lot when you're trying to weld script fonts and things. The trick to fix that is to zoom out a lot and then resize everything big before we weld it. Now, I want to make sure I resize all my existing layers at the same time because I don't want things to get out of whack. So I've selected them all, even though the other ones are hidden. I'm just going to make this really big. And you'll get triangle marks in the layers to say that it's too big, but that's fine. We can deal with that later. So now it's really big. I'm going to try welding it again. And hopefully this time the middle of my A, yay, will stay. Alright, so if you have that problem where when you weld it's filling in bits that you don't want filled in, just make it really big and try again. So I've just got to go and do this contour thing again to get rid of all the teeny tiny bits. See, this is why my video is going to end up really long because I'm having to fix things as I go along. Okay, cool. I think I'm happy with that. Alright, so now that I've done that weld, I'm going to make it all smaller again. So again, select all the layers and make it go down to a more sensible size. And that's still a bit big. You can tell because once the triangles go away, you're smaller than your map. Okay, so zoom in again, and now we can continue. Right, so sorry about that little detour, but I hope that actually helps if you have the same problem. Okay, so I'm going to change this to a colour I haven't used before. No, I've done purple, blue. Turn on my other layers. And now you can see how this is building up. It's looking really cool. So I'm actually only going to do one more layer on this one. So it'll end up being a 5-layer letter. And this one I need to fill in the rest of the A on the inside so it'll become a solid colour. And I'm also going to add a big flourishy swirl to the bottom. So let's hide these. Take my 4th layer and duplicate it. Move it so it sits on top and hide that one and make this one black. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is fill in the letter because this is going to be our bottom layer, so the whole of the A needs to be filled. So we're going to click contour again, and when it's loaded, it might take a while because this is quite complicated now. Click hide all contours. If you've got a letter like an A that has a cutout, then turn those back on by clicking them because we don't want to fill in that middle bit of the A. Okay, so nearly ready. Actually, it's done the same thing where my leaves touch. Come on, load. So you can see I've got these bits here where there's a gap of where the leaves would touch the A. I don't want to fill that in. I want those gaps to exist still. There you go. So these ones here. If you're not sure if you've got it all, you can turn on the other layer just to check. But no, I'm happy with that. All right, so now I just need to add the flourish. So go into images again. I'm going to search for flourish and find a nice swirl to use. When I was searching, when I was doing a test, I found one straight away, and now I can't see it. Oh, guess that's typical. Oh, it's really annoying that I can't find the one that I used in my test one because I really liked it. Maybe I went past it. Oh, I did. There we go. It's right there. Okay, insert when you found one you like. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Make this nice and big. And then move it up. Make sure it's black. And sit that in my letter. Might be a little bit big actually. Okay, cool. I like that. So we're going to weld these again. So this time I'm going to keep a close eye on it and check it's working right. So I've selected both the layers and I'm going to click weld. Yep, that doesn't look like it's done anything it shouldn't have, so I'm happy. I'm just going to click it again and contour out this little gap that I think is looking a bit small in the swirl. There we go. All right, so now it's time for the big reveal. Da, da, da. There we have it, our 5 layers. Make this one a nice bright colour as well, so it matches. Yellow maybe. So here it is with all the different layers. You can see how it's going to cut and it's going to look really cool. So we've got our 5 separate layers here. I'm just going to make this top one a bit darker so it's more obvious. There we go. And because we've welded everything, it is all ready to cut. I'm just going to go through and delete the ones we're not using, which is some of those leaves from the beginning. One thing I forgot to say, which we should have been doing as we went along, is saving. Because if Design Space crashes or you accidentally close it, you'll have lost all your work if you haven't saved it. So to save, click save up in here, give it a name and save. And then I recommend saving at least every 5 to 10 minutes so that if anything does happen, you don't lose too many changes. But definitely save it before you click make it, just in case anything happens. So at the minute I've got a warning triangle because my yellow layer is bigger than my matte. I'm going to select everything and group it so that I can resize them all at the same time. If you're cutting to a certain size, so maybe 7 inches tall say, you can now type that in the box at the top. Because we've grouped it, it will resize everything in proportion. You see, here we go. So I'm just going to save that once more and then click make it just to show you how that is working. So I'll click make it. And you can see now it's got all of my layers ready to cut. Now one thing it does do, which is a little bit weird is it reorders your layers when you click make it. So you just need to make sure you cut them out of the right color when you are cutting it out. So a helpful thing to do is to actually make the layers the color you want to cut them out before you click make it, and that's just that little extra bit of visual guidance. But there you have it. That is how you make a 3D layered mandala. It's not really a mandala, but that seems to be what they're called. A 3D layer letter in Design Space. So I'm just going to go through and just move these layers apart so you can see how we've built up our letter. Alright, so here's our 5 layers. So this just shows you how we've done it. So we started with the top right, just the outline of the A. Then we added some flourishes and we cut out the little circles of the one on the left. Then for our purple layer, we filled in the leaves using contour and added a few more images as well. For the blue layer, layer 4, we filled in more of those leaves with contour again, and then we used the slice tool to cut a pattern out of the letter A. And then finally with the yellow one, we used contour again to fill in the letter A, and we added a flourish image as well. And that all comes together to create a lovely 5 layer letter. Of course, you could add more layers if you wanted, so you could do 6 or maybe even more. Just be mindful if you do more than about 6 that you might end up making something that's too tall to fit in your frame. And of course you could do less layers if you didn't want to have as many as 5. So this did end up being really long, but I hope it all made sense. If there are any bits that you're confused upon or stuck on, leave me a comment and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So I hope that you enjoy this tutorial, and if you do use it to make any letters, I would love to see what you've made. So send an email to sarah@craftwithsarah.com and let me see what you've made. I'd love to see it. And also, if you're ever looking for free SVG files or other Cricut tutorials, check out my website at www.craftwithsarah.com. And of course, to keep up to date with all my Design Space and Cricut videos, of which there will be many, I have recorded lots over the last few days, which will be coming up soon. Click on the subscribe button on YouTube and you'll get notified whenever anything else goes live. Okay, thanks for watching and have fun crafting.